Hey everyone, how's it going? Today I wanted to share a little bit some thoughts around an article that I read recently that was, I don't know, off-putting to me. And so I just wanted to share some thoughts about it, both good and bad. So it's coming out of the New Yorker. It's written by someone, let's see here, by Kat Zhang, Catzhang. The title of the article is "We Are Thinking About Fitness All Wrong." And I just want to read a couple paragraphs out of the article to give some context about what this person is talking about in this article. And it says, exercise has become a mass obsession in America, the organizing axis around which everything else, clothing, food, even work, revolves. Last year in the United States, fitness memberships reached an all-time high of 72.9 million. Cookie and pretzel sales fell, while workout-friendly alternatives like beef jerky and nutrition bars flew off the shelf. Normal people have developed protein anxiety. If the Rule 34 of the internet dictates that every topic has a porn equivalent, then Rule 34 of contemporary nutrition is that every recipe has a sad cottage cheese knockoff. Gen Z is purportedly the swole generation. Gyms have become the new bars, offices, and hotels. Chelsea appears. Your membership starts at $220 per month. You can access state-of-the-art equipment, but also co-working lounges, daycare, nutrition coaches, and exclusive social events. The concept of paying to exert your body in air-conditioned indoors is a new and absurd civilization invention. Our modern equivalent-laden gym didn't arise from until the godfather of fitness, Jack LaLanne, conceived of it in the 1930s, growing in popularity as the American labor force transitioned from industrial manufacturing to information work. Many of us wouldn't need an extra physical toil in our jobs. We're sedentary. And many of us who are on our feet all day, retail associates, line cooks, neglect mobility. I look this way, but I'm strong and I'm pain-free. Nora Myers, a mid-sized disabled Pilates instructor and TikTok personality, posted in a response to criticism over her appearance. And that's what Pilates is actually for. In a well-functioning society, it should be easy to be healthy. The other day, I walked a robust 2 miles just scouting for a midday almond croissant. That kind of casual movement would have been impossible in the car-infested Dallas suburbs where I grew up. But whereas the world's healthiest countries, Japan, Spain, incentivize good lifestyle habits with pedestrian-friendly urban planning and accessible fresh produce, Americans have turned health into hyper-competitive individual luxury. According to Natalia Melnen Petrzela, I'm not good with names, historian and author of the book Fit Nation, fitness has become a socially acceptable form of conspicuous consumption around the 2007-2008 recession as social media took off. Flaunting parties and designer clothes became tacky, but boutique exercise was fine. You may be spending lavishly, but you're investing in the pursuit of health, which our culture sanctifies, especially when you're visibly working hard to achieve it, she said in an interview. This dynamic only intensified during the pandemic. And the article goes on a little bit more, but I think you get the gist of the articles. And I want to start off with that first paragraph that we talked about, where she leads off with saying, exercise has become an obsession in America, organizing axis around which everything else, clothing, food, even work, revolves. I completely disagree with that. I don't know that exercise is an obsession for America at all. I think if exercise was an obsession for America, America wouldn't have the level of obesity and chronic disease problems that it has. So I think the data does not necessarily reflect that statement at all. Last year, she says that in the United States, or they say, I'm not sure if this is if this person is a male or female, but anyways, last year, they say in the United States, fitness memberships reached an all-time high of 72.9 million. Cookie and pretzel sales fell, while workout-friendly alternatives like beef jerky and nutrition bars went shelf. Yeah, sure, maybe fitness membership reached an all-time high, accounting for $72.9 million. But how many people do we know have a membership to a gym and don't use it? So having a membership to a gym or having gym equipment in your house doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually exercising at all. And I bet the vast majority of that $72.9 million is memberships to gyms that have $10 a month clubs. It's not the $220 a month price tag that she references at the bottom of that paragraph, which I'm sure is someplace in, I don't know where Chelsea appears, is, but I imagine it's probably New York or New Jersey, somewhere in that vicinity, or out in California. But yeah, I doubt that the vast majority of that $72 million is coming from gym memberships that cost more than $50 a month, in which case people can easily absorb. I shouldn't say people can easily absorb, but many people can pay $50 a month and not actually use the membership. That happens quite frequently, especially if it's $10 a month or something like that. So I don't think just the amount of money spent on gym memberships is the actual reflection of America's obsession with fitness. They might have good intentions, but that doesn't mean they're actually using the gym or the equipment that they buy or whatever. And it says cookie and pretzel sales fell while workout-friendly alternatives like beef jerky and nutrition bars flew off the shelf. And so she links to an article citing this cookie and pretzel sales fell claim. And it's another article in the Wall Street Journal talking about PepsiCo's Frito-Lay sales in 2024. The sales fell in 2024 to $24.91 billion from $24.76 billion. I'm sorry. They fell from $24.91 billion to $24.76 billion in 2024. That's $24 billion. They lost less than $1 billion. They lost a couple $100 million, which is an absolute drop in the bucket. An absolute drop in the bucket. And they have this nice little graph, which I wish I could show you in the picture. And it has the bar chart from 2005 to 2024. And the decline in 2024 is like minuscule. You can barely even see it. If they didn't change the color of the bar from blue to red, you wouldn't even know that there's a decline there. It's ridiculous. And if you look at the chart from 2025, you know what? I think I might be able to show this to you. But can I show it to you? I guess I can't. Thought I was going to be able to share my screen, but doesn't look like I can. Anyways, the bar chart from 2005 to 2024 is insane growth. Like all of a sudden, and it's actually, I shouldn't say it's insane growth, but it's pretty good growth up until 2019 and 2020. And in 2020 to 2024, it goes bonkers. 2023, it goes bonkers. Like from $19 billion in, looks like in 2021, just under 20 billion. So like 19 billion, probably around there. In 2021 to 2023, they made $25 billion. They gained almost $5 billion, almost $6 billion in that 3-year time frame. And then they declined a couple $100 million between 2023 and 2024. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the fall of cookie and pretzel sales for PepsiCo is really that big of a deal and reflection of America's nutritional habits. And then it says workout-friendly alternatives like beef jerky and nutrition bars go off the shelf. So I tried to find some data on beef jerky sales over the past in the same time frame, and it was hard to find any data, but I did find some data that said it's projected that by 2027, so about 2 years from now, the meat snacks market size is projected to reach $6.5 billion. $6.5 billion. While the pretzel and cookie sales of PepsiCo is $24 billion, almost $25 billion. So I don't think that's the same thing. Anyways, normal people develop protein anxiety. That's a whole different thing there. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think if you're trying to get your protein from beef jerky, yeah, it can be a little bit of an issue, but in cottage cheese, but that's a whole different story. We're going to chat a little bit about that. Then he goes on to say the concept of paying to exert your body in air conditioned indoors is a new and absurd civilizational invention. And I agree. It is new, like relatively new compared to human history. And it is, they say in this article, it's really just a consequence of our work shifting from hard labor, manual labor to information work, where most of us sit behind a computer all day long. And so we need a way to exert our bodies. And one of the ways to do that is to go to the gym. Now, whether that's the right way to do it or not is a different story. I think that's a fair enough question, but it is a valid way to get exercise in today's modern world. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that at all. So, and then make some comments about how in a well-functioning society, it should be easy to be healthy. The other day, I walked a robust 2 miles scouting for a midday almond croissant. So I found it funny, to me anyways, that they were touting how in a well-functioning society that you can walk 2 miles to get a midday almond croissant, when above they were talking about how people are apparently obsessed with protein and beef jerky and nutrition bars, and there they are doing their 2 mile walk to find a croissant, which pretty much negates all the calories that they burnt finding that croissant. But not to say that there's not other benefits to walking besides calorie burn, but yeah. And that kind of casual movement would have been impossible in the car-infested Dallas suburb where I grew up. I can see an argument here. It would they go on to reference how design of cities and towns and stuff like that can incentivize fitness and healthier lifestyles, and I agree on that 100%. Like, for example, I was in Austin a couple months ago with my family, and we were walking on the bike path around the river there in downtown Austin. And not only was there a bike path that was easily accessible from pretty much anywhere in downtown Austin, but there was fitness stations there you could do workouts or pull-ups and calisthenics and like suspension trainer type moves, a couple places along the bike path, which is awesome. Like that type of stuff where you have planning, city planning, town planning with the ability to easily access fitness related things along the way inside the town and making it more friendly for that is definitely a thing. And I wish more cities and towns had stuff like that. But again, when we don't have city designed like that in America, a gym is a good alternative. And also I'm going to make an argument here in a little bit that a lot of this stuff is not necessary to be healthy here. And I do agree that it would be amazing if the cities and towns had things like downtown Austin had, but that's just not the case. And when you have old cities and towns were designed hundreds of years ago, where like in downtown Boston, for example, where it was before we became a country and manual labor was the thing, if people didn't need to be concerned about their fitness, redesigning a city around that type of stuff is a little bit more challenging for sure. And I think some of this article hints at the tone that I'm taking away from it is that Americans are obsessed with fitness and it's kind of elitism to be healthy, and with the requirement to have fancy clothes and high expense gym memberships and different types of wearables and these nutrition bars and beef jerky for nutrition to get your nutrition right and all this other stuff. And I don't think that's right. I agree that you might get the perception online a lot of times that a lot of this stuff is required, that you need to have these. I made this video a couple of weeks ago about having pasture raised, grass fed, wild caught animal protein sources being better than the conventional stuff. And it's so much better to have that stuff, etc. When the vast majority of people would just benefit from taking away the highly processed foods that they're eating and just eating conventional animal products. But that switch is going to get them 90% of the benefits. And so there is a lot of elitism sometimes in some of the nutrition advice that we see online. And there was this, towards the end of the article, she references this post somebody made on Twitter. I had never seen it before, but it was basically this guy's morning routine. I don't know who he was. He gets up at 3:30 this morning, has this ridiculous morning routine where he's journaling and he has nose tape or mouth tape, and he dunks his face in ice water, but the ice water isn't like tap water. It's poured from like fancy glass bottles. He gets in his workout. He then comes home and he has the chef that makes his perfect meal for him, and he sits on his computer and someone serves it to him. And yeah, that's super for the average person. Even for me, is like, no, thank you. That's not something I do or want to do or can do in my life. And so if you see that stuff and that's what it takes to be healthy, I agree. That's not the message we need to get across. What we need to get across is that there are a couple of things that are very important in being healthy. And a lot of them are not, and most of them are just trying to align yourself with your traditional ancestral norms, right? It makes this case about how modern gyms are just something that civilization invented, we can align ourselves better with our ancestral norms. And none of this stuff really is elitist, right? It's about getting good sleep. You don't need an Oura ring or a sleep fitness tracker or a sleep tracker to determine whether you get good sleep. Go to bed, get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, try to sleep in a dark room. All the stuff we're talking about sleep, it doesn't require, you don't need a cooling mattress to get good sleep. You can just go to sleep. It's not, most people are not suffering, their sleep is not suffering because they don't have a cooling mattress. It's because they are not prioritizing the sleep and have healthy habits around sleep. And it's all that stuff is free. Same thing with nutrition. Like I said, you don't need pasture raised, organic, grass fed animal products, and you don't need organic vegetables, and you don't need wild caught seafood, and you don't need the best food that's been blessed by a monk in the Himalayas or something like that. You just need to eat whole foods, right? Shop around the perimeter of the grocery store. I don't care if the food is organic. I don't care if it's non-GMO. I don't care if it's pasture raised. If it's a whole food, it looks like it came from the ground or came from an animal, and it hasn't, not coming from a box or a package, you're going to get 95% of the benefits from that food. And Americans will be vastly healthy. They don't need to eat jerky. They don't need to eat cottage cheese. They don't need to eat nutrition bars to be healthy. Just eating simple whole foods is going to get them 95% of the benefits. Stress management. Again, you don't need to track your HRV every morning and do cold plunges and all this other stuff and crazy stuff to manage stress, right? You need to understand that you need to have some downtime in your life. If you're feeling stressed, you need to figure out a way to manage that stress. And a lot of those practices are things like just not going 1,000 miles an hour all day long. And I know it's hard and it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. But it's not, doesn't cost, a lot of the practices around managing stress don't cost money. You don't need a tracker to tell you that you're stressed or not, or that you're recovered or not, right? You just need to know that, okay, I'm dealing with a lot of stress here. I need to make some adjustments in my life to manage that stress better. Maybe I just take a few minutes to breathe. Maybe I go for a walk. Maybe I don't watch the news 24 hours a day. Maybe I don't scroll on Instagram and look at in doomsday scroll about every bad thing that's happening in the world, right? There's all these other things that we do, modern people that we do in today's life that cause us a lot of stress that have costs zero money to fix. It just changes in our lifestyle. And the same thing is with exercise. Yes, you can go to the get a gym membership that costs $200 a month. I don't have a gym membership that costs me $220 a month. I will never have a gym membership that costs me $220 a month. I think that's absolutely insane. If you want to have a gym membership that costs you $220 a month and you can afford it, go for it. I'm all for it. But do you need a gym membership that costs you $220 a month to be fit and healthy? No, you don't need that. What you need to do is go for a walk. You need to do some body weight exercises. You need to just be physically active. For the vast majority of people, just the fact of going for a walk outside, free, with just a pair of shoes, is going to get them an immense amount of benefits towards their health. And yes, she makes the point that it can be hard in certain parts of the world. I agree, right? There are some challenges. Maybe it's dangerous to go outside and walk at certain times of day in certain areas. And I understand that. And that's where things like trying to find safe spaces indoors, your local YMCA or some place indoors, to do some movement, find a safe place. And it doesn't have to be walking. It could just be just doing a couple of air squats, doing some push-ups, doing some inverted rows, right? With no equipment at all, filling your backpack up and just walking around with that for a little bit, right? I agree that there's some challenges there, and it's not, a lot of these things can be challenged in certain areas, but it's certainly not feasible for a lot of people in this country to access a lot of these healthy lifestyle choices. And I don't think that we can say that Americans are obsessed with fitness. We can use the fall of cookie and pretzel consumption to justify our nutrition habits, or say that we need things to look at things like these elitist gym memberships or crazy morning routines and all the stuff that proves that America is thinking about fitness all wrong. Because I think a vast majority of people in this country are not thinking about fitness or health at all. And it shows in the data. That may not be reflected on what we see online, because online is not reality. But when you look around yourself and you look at the people around you, your family members, your friends, people that you see on the street every day, and you see their health just visually, not that's an accurate reflection of their health, but it does show a lot of times the way people are moving around, the assistance that they need, that type of